Hello, my name is John Glennie, and welcome to Glennie's Ice Cream and Belgian Buttercreams. This was the family business started by my father and mother in the early 1930s and continued through about 1975. It was the business that I grew up in. The first photo you saw just a moment ago is one of my dad on the left with his partner, Jack McClay, in the early 1930s. And as we continue with our movie here and photos, we see pictures of the ice cream stand in its early days. That, of course, is the one on the Pawtucket Boulevard. Perhaps the first major crisis the business faced was the flood of 1938. You see the waters here creeping up in the stand, and then behind it in the photos here. And the back of the stand that you're looking at now was actually the place where the ice cream itself was made. The floodwaters did damage the parking area of the stand as well, and it was this event, as I understand it, that caused Jack to withdraw from the business. My father bought out his interest, and from that time on, it was known as Glennie's Ice Cream. This shows the stand in its setting in the Pawtucket Boulevard. Again, in roughly the same period, the 1930s, perhaps here the late 1930s. It shows a lot of undeveloped land. Actually, that small house there was part of the property as well. This is a movie that was taken by my father, obviously staged by him, and shows, and we'll return to the boys in a minute, but shows a couple of his boys out there getting ready to sweep the walk and smoking a cigarette, and then, as we'll see later on, and with my father gambling. And to really appreciate this, you have to know something about my father. He was old school in running his business. The thought of an employee smoking around the job would have just caused him to go ballistic. And similarly, with the thought of gambling around the property would have just been a huge no-no. And here he is here, having someone else hold the camera as he joins the boys. I guess they're shooting craps there and fussing over who gets the pot and this sort of thing. But that, believe me, as someone who worked in the business for about 10 years during summer and spring vacations, life working for Glennie's was in no way like that. These shots are more of the same, except now it's a bit later. So we have the advantage of color movies. And here we can see these brilliant red, pink flowers in bloom all around the borders, the back borders of the property of the stand. There, of course, we're looking at benches where people would sometimes sit and have their ice cream cones and cups and sodas and so on during the summer. And I think that's Dad's car parked in front of the Pawtucket Boulevard stand right there. We're moving now to some photos that we have from newspaper advertisements. This, of course, being the Glennie's ice cream stand we've just been looking at. And here are some ice cream recipes from my father, and that was one of the schedules he put together in a day in 1956 for the production run of ice cream that he was going to do at that time. Here we have the, I'm sorry to say, the only photo that we seem to have of the stand at Ryder Street with manager Leo Roybal. And now we're going to make a transition to the Belgian candy store, which opened in the late 1940s in downtown Lowell, Massachusetts, corner of Gorham and Appleton Streets. That's one image, and here's a much better image of the interior of that store. You see Glennie's in wood up on the upper left, and here is, although I know it's difficult to read on the screen, it's a candy recipes typed by my mother. And here is our candy man, Mr. Johnson, whom my father used to refer to as the old man, which to me was pretty funny because I thought he was an old man himself at the time. These molds, like of the horse, were used to make hard candies in the shapes of horses and locomotives and so on. And here we have an array of cups, quart containers that were used. This is the Belgian candy store from the outside. My father owned the entire apartment building, and I'm sorry to say the whole structure was burned to the ground in the early 1960s, and that was the end of the candy business. This is a movie which shows the action around the store and a little bit of the neighborhood at that particular time. As you'll see, this photo and the next are of the Glennie's crew from both the ice cream stands as well as the Belgian candy store. They would have been taken on July 4th, which we always took off as a holiday. My father is in the back row far right. And thank you very much for watching this little movie about the family business.